All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining us. GM to those of you where it's still morning, and good afternoon for those of you that are a little bit later like me, and good evening to some of you as well joining us from all over the world. Super excited to do this today with Kemal. As I mentioned just a little bit earlier, this is a culmination of getting that product update out, but at the same time, we really felt that we want an opportunity to have Kemal kind of deep dive, answer some questions that may have not been addressed in that product post, allow you to kind of get to know Kemal a little bit more about the way he thinks about things and why I'm super excited that he's recently sort of joined our team. So officially, I just want to welcome you to the Chainlink Products Q&A. I'm joined today by Chainlink Labs Chief Product Officer, Kemal El Moujahid. I just want to explain how the call is going to work. I'm going to be asking Kemal questions based on the questions that were submitted on the Google form we shared a day or two back. So special shout out to those of you that submitted questions. I'm going to mention the handle of the people that asked it. So give them some love. If you see them here or kind of on Twitter, some of the names will be very familiar to you, as I'm sure you can imagine. One quick thing to call out. Kemal is going to be answering questions directly related to Chainlink services. So again, I know there's always people that have economics questions and things like that. If you want to kind of learn a little bit more about some of that was covered a bit in CLG's latest podcast with Sergey. So I would definitely check that out if you haven't. And he does touch on some of those questions that were kind of asked on the Google form as well. So without further ado, Kemal, I'm going to throw it to you. If you wouldn't mind, maybe just a brief introduction about yourself, kind of who you are, where you come from, and then we'll get started with the questions.
Thank you, Rory. Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Kemal. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Chainlink Labs. I've joined Chainlink Labs almost a year ago, and it's really great to be here today and to talk to the community. I've been excited about the promise of crypto, Web3, blockchain, whatever we want to call it, really since the EVM got out. I think the idea that the developers could really for the first time build apps that can't be shut down really blew my mind. For the first time, you could just really build something, couldn't be shut down, couldn't cheat, right? Would run as expected, and could move billions of dollars of value. That had to be something that would change the world. And I've been really fortunate in my career to work on incredibly transformative and disruptive technologies. I got to open the Messenger platform to 1 billion people. I got to bring TensorFlow, which is Google's machine learning crown jewel platform, to 3 million developers. And I really see Chainlink as the enabler of the Web3 promise. And I think we'll get into that in the call. Because really any real world application of Web3 requires a connection to Web2. And that's what Chainlink does at the heart of it. And I just got passionate about helping drive that revolution. I also just love developer products. I love working with builders. I was at Eat Denver a few weeks ago, and it was just a blast to see the energy, to see the buzzing and people building things and building on top of each other and making the connection. And really, this is how those revolutions happen. We released Functions, which was a huge launch for us. I really think this ushers in a new era for Chainlink, and I know we'll talk about it. And so that was really nice to see, and connecting with the community. So I'm really happy we're doing this today. I'm really glad that we were releasing our blog post. The goal is really to keep the community informed. This is, in my mind, this is the continuation of the platform vision that we shared back in September. If you go back and watch the keynote that we did at SmartCon, you'll see that the blog really shows how much progress we've made along all these lines that we've outlined. I'm just excited to connect with the community today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I didn't realize it's been almost a year myself. So time really does fly. And we'll go ahead and kick it off. So this first question was from @Chainlink Girl. Hi, Kemal. Thank you for all the work that you do for Chainlink. Which Chainlink products, such as VRF, CCIP, Deco, do you think will one day be the largest service used and why? And then if I can ask kind of a second question on that, which one excites you the most? So basically, summary, which one do you think will be the largest service? And then which one excites you the most? I'll throw it over to you, Kemal.
Thank you. Great question. Thank you, Chainlink Girl. So let's see. Which one will become the largest? It's really hard to say, and let me explain why. I think it's always like this with those really big innovation. I'll pick an example. I remember, this is going to make me sound old, but I remember when I downloaded music the first time on Napster. It was incredible. It was magical, almost like what just happened. I can now listen to music. I didn't have to go buy a CD. This felt something that we would never go back. But then being able to predict that this is going to create the iPod, that actually the moment where this becomes mainstream is when everybody buys an iPod because that's how they consume music, is really hard. Was really hard at the time. What you could predict was, yeah, people are going to download music. Yes, that's going to happen. But the way this was going to happen is actually pretty complicated. And it was the same for AI. When we look at what's happening with ChatGPT, the fact that natural language, English, for those who speak English, or French for me, or English, or Arabic, or whatever's your language, feeling that that's now the interface and that's the unlock to AI, wasn't that obvious. So I think in Web3, it's going to be the same thing. Some principles, like I want things to be provably fair. I want transparency. I don't want to be cheated out of the value or my data. I think those are going to permeate society. The way it will permeate is still unclear, and that's okay. And that's why I think the future of this adoption is going to be hybrid. It's not going to be all on chain. It's obviously not going to be all on Web 2. And it's going to happen when the core advantage of Web 3 can be baked in a way that consumers all around us will come to expect it. And that's still not figured out. What's the iPod or what's the ChatGPT moment of Web 3? I don't know. But that's also why I think Chainlink's positioning makes so much sense. However this happens, we want to be powering the solution, right? And this is why working with developers on how they're trying to have this real world impact is so important, and making sure that we empower them. It could turn out to be our biggest business could turn out to be data, which has been a historical bet. Could be interoperability because assets need to move freely across chains. And it could be something as nimble as functions, right? Where every developer decides, hey, I'm going to go get my own data. Thank you for creating that middleware, and then I'm going to go disrupt all these industries with my own data. So I think again, so that's for the largest, but I'm pretty happy with the bets we're making, and I think it's pretty apparent in the roadmap. In terms of the ones that I'm the most excited about, it's really hard to pick because they're so different, right? So let me give some examples. I think low latency oracles are incredible because they're unlocking a new scalable way to deliver data. There's going to be a lot more data, many more chains, and data has to flow fast, especially to unlock derivatives, which is a huge market. So that one is definitely very exciting. The technologist in me thinks about CCAP as the true interop stack, but also if you look at real-world asset tokenization, which we'll talk about, everybody's just trying to tokenize their asset. Every asset holder is thinking, okay, assets are more useful on-chain. But they soon discover that assets don't flow freely. from chain to chain. And that, I think, is going to be a huge unlock to be able to make those assets move freely. And obviously this is recent, but I think functions and automation, they're the ones who, they're the products that give the highest degree of freedom to developers so that they can go explore. I think when I see what they're doing and the kinds of ideas they come up with, I think they're going to come up with things that will really show developers, consumers, the promise of Web3. Because, and I'll go back to the initial promise. I think the initial DeFi promise is still right there, except that most people don't really get it. But imagine the day you're going to be at dinner and your friend's going to say, "Oh, we bought our first house, and we got the mortgage. We got the financing under 5 minutes on this app." And then you'll say, "Oh, how do you do it?" "Well, I don't know. Apparently they're using something called Web3. Did you know about it?" Of course I knew. "Oh, you didn't know what DeFi was?" "Yes, that's DeFi." So I think once this connect with their real problems, that is when the true promise will come true. And so I think it's going to be a mix of those three. Again, latency oracles, incredibly exciting to see this fast way to get data on chain, interop, and then I think the developer in me, the hacker in me, looks at functions and automation, and I get a lot of ideas when I see this.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you for that one. I really appreciate it. We're gonna turn up the heat a little bit, and I think ask one of the questions that I know the community really asks all the time, and a lot of people I come across. So this is from Lover Plaid. So not a big shocker for those of you that hang out on crypto Twitter. When price feeds were launched, Chainlink was essentially the only viable option in a barren landscape. This presented a unique opportunity to capture and secure market share. However, with the delay of CCIP, Chainlink is now entering an already increasingly crowded sector in terms of cross-chain services. What sets CCIP apart, and how will it compete?
Thank you, Loverplate. Okay, so first let me say one thing. Being first to market is not always a good thing. There's this saying that I like a lot, which goes, "Pioneers get arrows, settlers take the land." And by the way, I love being pioneer. I love pioneers. I root for pioneers, but ultimately we want to take the land. And so, and we're being ultra cautious with CCIP because there's one thing is to be first to market. Another thing is being first secure to market. And we want to be first secure in the market. And so we originally aimed to complete the first version of CCIP in 2022, but we decided ultimately to extend the process to make sure that we're being ultra first secure to market. I know we throw all these big numbers all the time, but I believe last year over $2.5 billion worth of breach hacks happened. So I think that's a good reason to take security very seriously. Another reason has been if we want to build the true interop play there's so many different use cases that we want to build it in a way that's very generic and that's very easy for developers to use. So those were the two main reasons why we took more time. Now, I want to acknowledge that I think our level of communication to the community could have been better. And I think we've been, in hindsight, maybe a bit too ambitious. And that's why we're doing what we're doing today. We want to provide more insight going forward, where we are, how fast we're moving. And we're going in the right direction. I think if you've seen the update in the blog post, we're getting really great feedback. And we're making significant progress, and our beta testers are really liking what they're seeing. So I think we have the right approach there. In terms of competitive landscape, I think we have a very, very good position. First, because of our attention to security and reliability. This is what we do. this is what has put us in the position we are today, and that's what we're never going to compromise with, right? So we're going to provide CCIP through our high quality set of node operators, which have secured trillions in transaction value last year. We're going to add other layers of security, rate limiting, anti-fraud networks. I think we'll talk a bit about AI, which I'm also a bit passionate about, and that's gonna play a role there. The other angle here is that we're making this seamless to integrate. We're making it very easy, blending messaging and token transfers, really making ease of use um, a top consideration here. So between security, ease of use, and then there's another really important attribute there is that we already have hundreds of live dApps across various chains using our services like data feeds, automation, etc. And adding CCIP does not introduce any other trust assumption, which is not the case for other solutions. And that's really the true power of a platform, by the way, because what happens is you power the most important things that developers need, and it works better together. And now you just want to use Chainlink. So I think if you put all those things together, we feel pretty good about CCIP.
Very cool. Well, again, thank you for answering that one, and that was a great one, Lover Plaid. Lover Plaid had another great question I added on here as well, kind of building on what you just talked about, Kemal. Now that the Chainlink product suite is maturing, with the introduction of CCIP, could you maybe elaborate on any upcoming practical applications of Chainlink products by non-crypto native companies or enterprises?
Thank you again for the question, Loverpod. Right. So I think there are few categories of vertical where we could see very significant traction. So the first one is capital market, and we talked about real world asset tokenization. Now, because assets on chain, and there's a great blog post on Chainlink website about that explains in detail what's the case. But the bottom line is, you take an asset, it's physical, not very useful. It's got inherent value, but not a lot of utility. You digitize it, now you can do lot of really cool things with it. You could use it, you could lend it, you could borrow it, you could do a lot of things. So more utility. But this is still siloed to whoever can do that. Now you put it on chain, it becomes programmable. Anybody can use it for any kind of application. So one example I like to use is gold. Like, you can have a bar of gold, and when it gets on chain, you can have a game that lets you win real gold, right? Represented by the actual gold. That is increasing the utility of that bar of gold a lot. And so that is the fundamental phenomenon that makes those Web2 companies, TradFi players, think about, how do I put my assets on chain? And this is where something like CCIP comes in, because they discover that if they put it on chain, it's stuck on one chain, and they need to be able to move it around. And then they want to make sure that they could go back to a private chain and go back to a public chain. It also needs proof of reserve or proof of collateralization. That's another very important thing that they're looking at. And then they realize, oh, all these things need to be automated. How do I automate this in a trust minimized way? So then they look at things like automation. So that's one very important trend. Another one that they're also discovering is how this increases the ability for them to collaborate amongst each other, right? So they usually run, I'm not going to make a generalization, but usually the tech stack for TradFi is, let's say, not very current, And the reason for this is just because it needs, nobody wants to touch it because it's working. And but then but then they want to be able to collaborate. They want to be able to share information and putting things on chain, like funds wanting to put their net asset value NAV on a daily basis on chain is a great example because then they can bypass all the upgrades that they would have to do to their stack to put directly something on chain, and then it's immutable. It's there. Other players can go and read that information, and that's another really good example. Insurance also is a really clear example of this. And we've seen traction with folks like the Lemonade Crypto Climate Coalition, where they're building those contracts that are provably fair. I think this is something, by the way, that most consumers click with right away. Ask them, do you like insurance? Like, no, I don't like insurance. Why not? Because they never pay me. Or I don't know if they're going to pay me. And then you tell them, imagine if the insurance couldn't choose not to pay you. How's that possible? Well, you could write a smart contract, and now with functions, it could go check whether the event happened or not. So I think that's another really interesting vertical. The next one would be gaming. I think gaming and randomness is really a sector that's ripe for the same fundamental reason. I think people just don't realize that randomness might not be random. And then when you explain to them, it might not be random. And then they go to, well, I guess it's a fact of life that I have to deal with. And then when you say, well, they could just be using VRF, and then you could see whether it's random. And then it becomes, oh, then why aren't they using VRF, right? So I think it's going to be interesting to see how we can educate the market and the consumers, but VRF is making strides in providing the solution to Web 2. And then I think what's going to happen is the first player, the first lottery, Web 2 lottery, that's going to say, I'm provably fair. This is the badge. You can click on it. You can see the transaction. And then people are going to say, why is the other lottery not provably fair? What's up with that? Why do they not want to do this? And then that's going to unlock this market, which is a very, very big market. I mean, the Powerball industry is $300 billion plus. But then I would say most broadly, and this is something that, again, having joined formally the industry a year ago, I have all these conversations with Web2 friends about what's Web3. And one thing I realized is that Web3 is very confusing for Web2 people. It's very confusing. And one of the biggest misconceptions that they have is that they need to put everything on chain. So yeah, you tell them about, I'll pick an example that's pretty familiar to me, AI. Well, they'll say, well, you can't train a model on chain. It's not scalable. And I say, why would you? Why would you want to do that now? And then they look at me like, I don't have to? No, you don't have to. You could keep your model on your Web2 stack, and then you can connect it to your smart contract, and your smart contract can make a call to your AI model. And then that's like an aha moment for them. They realize, oh, I can do this, and I can have some of those nice properties of Web3, because everybody wants to build products that are provably fair, more transparent to their users. They just don't know where to start. And so I think this is why I think this is a whole new chapter for Chainlink and for the industry to be able to enable that. It's really a mind shift. And we're talking about 30 million developers here. And so I think what I like as well is that this moves the discussion from, it's not whether Web3 or Web2, or it's why and how. Why would you want, like, what's the most important reason you'd want to do something in Web3, and how do you do it? And then this is where, if you're an insurance company, can you show that your payouts will be fair? Can you differentiate from your competition because your payout will be fair? So I think that's what I'm seeing happening. It starts with developers building those things. That's why it's so important to unlock them. Then consumers will see what's possible. They'll get to demand it. And then it'll get to business people. And then business people will do businessy things. They'll start writing, oh, I got a Web3 strategy now. We're going to have Web3 strategy officers and everybody will have a Web3 strategy and all that, right? And that's the path I see towards that broader adoption.
All right. Well, a lot of a lot of interesting stuff there, and I'm sure the community will be chatting about that. Moving on to the next question from Wakey9834 and Crypto Go. BlackRock and others have said they prefer to use permissioned or closed garden systems like Corda or Hyperledger. Is it Chainlink's view that the big boys will have to jump out of their permission systems into permissionless systems in time? And if so, why?
Thank you, Wakey 9834 slash at CryptoGo. Thanks for the question. Well, I think in terms of that debate, I think this is going to be a spectrum of different options, especially in the foreseeable future. So again, going back to our positioning, we're not trying to predict which one, which kind of blockchain or what level of trust minimization the world's going to adopt. I think it again is going to be a spectrum, and for different kinds of applications, people are going to be comfortable with different kind of trade-offs. But so what we want to do is support as many as we can and connect them all together. I think that's the value that we're going to be providing. And here, interoperability is the key. There might be some reason why it makes sense for certain institutions to use permission chain as their home base, but ultimately they're going to have to interrupt, and that's where that's why we want to build CCAP with flexibility and security in mind. I mean, if you take a parallel, companies have private clouds, but their users want to be able to send emails, and that should be a given. So that's how we're approaching this.
Got it. So kind of pivoting a little bit here. Interesting question from @Lambda Oversight. How is Chainlink addressing the issue of high Ethereum gas costs or kind of high gas costs in general?
Thank you, Lambda Oversight. So the problem of scalability with blockchain is a really important one, and one which is being addressed by chains in a variety of ways. Some are moving forward with modular layer 2 rollups like Ethereum, or others are exploring new kinds of VMs and ways to parallelize execution. I think when it comes to how Chainlink is tackling the constraint of blockchain transaction cost and therefore the connected issue of Oracle network operating cost, there are a number of initiatives that are playing out, and all those that I'm going to enumerate are playing out in parallel and at different stage of research, development, and deployment. I think first, the Chainlink Scale program is an initiative targeted at enabling chains who want to accelerate their ecosystem's growth while supporting the economics and sustainability of oracles by covering certain operating costs of chain oracles operating on their network until user fees grow to a self-sustainable level. So, for example, we've done this with Ethereum 2 layer 2 networks such as Coinbase Base, Metis, and Starkware, who've all joined the Scale program, and there are many other that we're in discussion with. Also, we're being more selective in launching new feeds, especially for high-cost blockchains, and we make sure that it's based upon a clear market demand by users and a clear path to sustainability, either via user fees or other forms of fee sponsorship. Feeds were once in demand but are no longer. Well, we look at them, and if there's little to no usage or in clear path to sustainability, then we deprecate. Those fees are being deprecated. I think also we're expanding the scope of feed sponsors just beyond just dApps, such as working with asset issuers to empower them to sponsor feeds around their tokens. That's a win-win dynamic for issuers, who want to see their token more broadly used within DeFi and often require a fee. Also, we're continually deploying on higher throughput chains and L2s. And that creates an attractive incentive for projects to move to those cost-efficient networks or otherwise pay more for the feeds on higher cost blockchains. We are also investing in deep technical solution. The latest version of Chainlink's consensus protocol, OCR2, really provides a lot of efficiency features around gas. I believe the gas consumption use is reduced by 25%. And OCR2 is being rolled out to some chains and services, and we're looking to expand this. Also, the low latency Oracle architecture is a huge unlock there, right? Because it makes those data points available off chain in a pool-based manner, and that way, our users' dApps they can eventually use automation job to put this data on chain. So it's not writing the data all the time on all the chains. And this infrastructure solve is going to continue to evolve over time. And when it comes to Ethereum specifically, these initiatives and a general transition to layer 2 rollups, it's not something that can happen overnight, right? And there's still a large base of users on the mainnet that Chainlink will continue to support by providing Oracle services. And at the same time, we're aligned with the Ethereum Foundation's and the Ethereum's community's goal of a rollup-centric roadmap, and we're working to support that goal. So all those things are happening in parallel, but to take a step back, the greater vision here around Oracle Network cost efficiency is, as Web3 industry grows, the amount of fees flowing to the system will grow and to support network sustainability.
All right. Well, I guess kind of keeping along that sort of, you mentioned a little bit low latency, sort of oracles. DeFi Drew asked a question related to that. So what's the delay for low latency off-chain price oracles? The perpetuals derivative market is the most ripe area of DeFi for growth, where there's real product market fit and user demand. Is this just hard? It needs more testing, or is it being under prioritized or resourced? Thanks.
Thank you, DeFi Drew. So first, I'd say we know derivatives is a huge market, and low latency oracles are really key to unlocking the use case. I can guarantee you, we're working very hard on this architecture to meet the stringent requirements for on-chain derivatives. Again, going back to our philosophy, we want to be first secure market. We want to unlock that market. And this architecture must be extremely reliable, timely, and provide high quality data with maximum uptime to make sure users can execute trades quickly and really with confidence. And as outlined in the product update blog, we're adding new data points such as liquidity weighted bid ask, meaning that these feeds will be the first multivariate Chainlink data feeds and will provide this extra bit of information that will ultimately differentiate and make this an awesome product. So this is a huge unlock for data feeds. We're going to be able to start offering additional data points. We're fully committed. I mean, I would just love to be able to say, ta-da, this is what's happening, etc. But also, we're hard at work, and we only share the updates when it's ready to share. So stay tuned for further updates. But I guarantee you, this is top priority for our team.
All right. We've got always people kind of asking this question in the community, so it's very good. Matthias, glink.solution7558 asks this one. What steps is Chainlink taking to incentivize and onboard additional node operators in order to further decentralize its services and increase the security and resilience of its network?
Thank you, Matthias. glink.solution7558. Thank you for the question. So first, look, I mean, onboarding node operators is a balancing act. Nodes need a certain amount of jobs to be able to support their ongoing operations, right? And if nodes are not making enough rewards, then this is where they potentially become unreliable or they drop off the network. But we get that there's a lot of people who want to be Chainlink node operators that support Chainlink services, so that data feeds, and we really appreciate the interest. And what we're doing is we're focused on launching new services which can increase the amount of consumption in a network for existing node operators and can help drive a sustainable system. And we believe that as fees scale, so will the opportunity to work with new node operators will appear, right? Including those from the community. And with regards to engaging with community node operators, we are very proud and very, very thankful to have such a supportive and active community. This is what powers Chainlink. And we're excited to work with community node operators when we can, not just due to their technical expertise, but also due to their passion for Chainlink and for future cryptographically guaranteed world that we're all building towards, right? I think this is a deep partnership, and we are deeply grateful for this partnership.
Absolutely, love the passion. Always love the passion from day one. So this is something I've seen Kemal asked actually in the chat that's been going on a little bit now, and it's not the same as what people are asking, but I'll kind of sort of generalize it here for you. What is everyone overlooking when it comes to the intersection of Web3 and AI?
Well, thanks for the question. I think you know that this is near and dear to my heart. I think so. Let's see. The first thing that's pretty clear that people are looking at is that coding with AI just became incredibly easier, faster, and with tools like Copilot or what Google, my friends at Google are working on, or it's just incredible to see what you can build now when you're assisted with AI. And I think this is a huge unlock for Web3 because it's a new space, and people typically simplifying things is a bigger unlock when things are new and not everybody knows how to do it. I mean, I was playing with just creating functions with AI, and it was just mind blowing. You know, I would say, okay, write me a function that makes an API call to this and this service, and it just wrote it. And all I had to do was just, push it, and it was done. I didn't have to read the API, read what kind of calls to make, how to, authenticate, whatever. It was just did it for me. And then I asked it, write me a smart contract that does this, and it wrote it for me. So I think that's going to be the first big unlock. I think what people are overlooking is the impact on an industry where you have 30,000 active developers and 30 million developers in the world. Those 30 million now have a 10x, 100x on-ramp to Web3. The other one also is security. I think blockchain security. AI is really good at picking up, you give it a lot of data, and then it picks up the pattern. That's really something that AI is incredible with. You don't really know how it picks it up, but you just give it a lot of data and it just picks it up. And so I think things like identifying fraudulent behavior, we've talked about anti-fraud network, which is CIP. I think there's a lot of really cool applications there. But then I also mentioned it earlier, now that smart contract can make any API call, and you have all these incredible models that are being built on Web 2, now smart contracts can get AI superpowers. And we did that fun little demo for the function launch with my friend Lawrence Marooney, who's an AI lead at Google, where smart contract just generated some art. This is, I think we're going to see a lot of interesting applications there. You can imagine a very complex trading strategy that needs a lot of GPUs to run, and you have that sitting on your cloud, and then you have a trading smart contract that just makes a call to get a prediction and decides what to do. That is something that is now possible. Another one that is pretty near and dear to my heart is solving data collection for AI. So let me explain. An AI model is as good as the data that you use to train it. And collecting data is complicated, especially when data is siloed and lives in places where either players don't want to share that data or cannot, for regulatory reason, whatever, share that data. This is why you see most of the advance happening within large players who have not naturally this huge access to data. But if you pick something like healthcare, it is today possible to train a model that will predict lung cancer. It will do it at the level of the world's best experts, maybe even better. And it will do it maybe a year in advance. So the model knows a year in advance if something's going to get malignant. Okay, so it's possible to do it today. But the reason why, and by the way, anybody could get diagnosed, whether they have access to these top 5 world experts or not. So it's a huge opportunity just to diagnose people, right? And it's not done because, well, the data sits in silos in where the scans exist or something like that. So, but what blockchain enables is to train that data without sharing, train that model, sorry, without sharing the data. Just keep it in those different silos. And there's some really interesting approaches on federated learning, swarm learning, some really interesting protocols that are doing things there. So I think that's going to be a huge unlock. And then, and in a lot of different areas, and obviously I mentioned healthcare because I think this is literally something that impacts lives. The last one I tweeted recently about this because people were asking me, what do you think about ChatGPT? What do you think about ChatGPT? What's the next thing, etc. And to me, what's clear is that ChatGPT will be able to make API calls. I mean, maybe not GPT-4, but maybe GPT-5. And when it does, this thing is going to be able to just go get any information anywhere on the internet, and then it's going to be able to take action. So it's going to be able to actually order food, or an Uber for you, or with TaskRabbit, it could just ask humans to do things, right? And that's going to be marketed to everybody as your ultimate assistant. It'll be, okay, well, you have this assistant that can do anything for you. You can ask it anything, it knows everything, can do everything for you. That's, by the way, that's what we were building at Facebook in 2016 with M and Jan LeCun. And it was just, we didn't have at the time ChatGPT, which now exists. So where I'm going with this is that we're going to be in a world where you're going to have an assistant that can do anything for you much better than anyone else around you, will know everything about you, but will live on a centralized place. And I don't know whether people are going to be cool with that. And I think this is where the promise of Web3 comes in. And this happened initially with money after the 2008 crisis, where people said money is too serious to just be only left in the hands of central institutions. I think people are going to come to the realization that AI is too serious to leave it in the hands of, just trust me, central institution. And by the way, people who work in those centralized institutions are awesome people. They believe in open source. They want to make things more accessible. So I think blockchain is going to provide a really interesting solution for them.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I was both excited and terrified and thrilled, and you kind of took me a bit on a roller coaster there. But I think definitely change is coming, and maybe that might be the one kind of inevitable thing out of this. So, Kemal, I'm going to go let you focus on taking the land. But one thing I do want to let people know, Kemal's on Twitter. He may not respond to you because, again, he is focused on some things. But yeah, you can at me, at Rory Pyatt, my name. You can at Kemal. We do see this stuff. We do collect this stuff. If you like this format, let us know if you want to do it again. I loved it, so hopefully you did as well. I'd love to do it again. If you think we should make changes, let me know. I'm always happy and open to that feedback, and super excited. So Kemal, thank you so much for joining us. It was really a pleasure. Any parting words before I let you get back to work?
Well, thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure. I think, again, the goal for this is just to show what we're doing, why we're doing it. We outlined the vision back in September. We're heads down, working to realize this. And thank you for your support. I do look at Twitter. I read things. Thank you for all the kind words. And also we look at things that we could be doing better. Thank you for that as well. I like that we're doing this format. This is providing you with the visibility over what we're doing. And yeah, let's just keep building Chainlink all together.